Hi, I'm Jennifer of Celtic Knot Crochet, and today in this video I'll be showing you how to make the Celtic Crochet Bag Charm. This is an easy crochet project that uses a small amount of cotton yarn. In this video I'll show you how to crochet the cord, and then I'll show you how to weave it into the knot, and then I'll show you how to put two together, add a bead, and add a hanger. If you like this video, make sure to give us a thumbs up and don't forget to click to subscribe. And if you know someone else who would like this project, make sure to send it along to them. Let's get started. To make this Celtic bag charm, you're simply going to crochet a long cord, and then you're going to weave it into a Celtic knot and then join it with another one that looks just like it, so you have a double-sided sturdy bag charm that you can easily slip around any kind of handle like this and hang it as a decoration. This is a great project to put on your purse, backpack, or any tote bag. Let's talk about the supplies you'll need to make the Celtic bag charm. I used LionBrand 24/7 cotton in these two really pretty colors, Tangerine and Creamsicle. Sound good enough to eat. Yum yum. But you could also use Sinfonia. This is one of my favorites. Or Hobby Lobby, I love this cotton. These are all really nice cottons that are thinner than your dishcloth cotton. So this works great for this project. You'll also need a 3.75 F hook. It's easiest if you have a bunch of stitch markers. You'll need 14 to make this. But if you don't have stitch markers, you could use safety pins, you could use a piece of yarn, you could use paper clips, anything to mark a stitch that is easily removable. Of course, you'll need some scissors. We'll go over the knot weaving supplies when we get there. You'll also want a yarn needle and a smaller needle that can fit through the beads. If you want to add a bead, I picked several that just look like they would make good pendant beads hanging down below. Heart, big oval, teardrop. And you'll want some matching thread. Another nice finishing touch for your project is to use a little fabric stiffener, and to make it go really quickly is to use a hot glue gun and some glue sticks. So you want to start with your slip knot on your hook, and you're going to chain 102. Now that's a lot of chains, so if you're concerned that you might lose count as you go, you can do 10 or 20 at a time. Okay, so there's 20, and you could use your stitch marker to just mark every 20th stitch, every 20th chain. And that way, if you get interrupted, you only have to go back to your last stitch marker and start with 20 again. So here is my nice long 102 chain. And now I'm ready to work into this chain to create the cord. And as I like to do, this is the front of our chain. Let me get this, I don't need this anymore. And the back of our chain with all these bumps. And we're going to work into the back bar of the chain, right through those back bumps. And that'll create a nice even cord. So we're going to skip the first one and single crochet in the next one. And the next two. So we have 3 single crochets right here. And now we're going to work 2 single crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, and this is going to create our first curve in the knot. And what we're going to do with these stitch markers is we're going to mark either the top or the bottom of the stitches. So when I put 2 single crochets in, I want to mark the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to put a single crochet in the next stitch. And then I'm going to put 2 in the one after that. And I'm going to mark it again. I'm going to mark the bottom because I put 2 single crochets in one stitch. And this is going to be the first loop or the first turn in my Celtic knot. Next, I'm going to single crochet in the next 11 chains. And remember, single crochet is you put your hook in, yarn over, pull through the stitch, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. So far I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now we're going to do a different type of stitch. This is called single crochet 2 together, and we're going to combine 2 stitches. So we put our hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, then put our hook into the stitch after that, yarn over, pull up a loop. We have 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's called single crochet 2 together. And now I'm going to mark the top of that stitch with a stitch marker. And the counting stitch markers we don't need anymore, so we can take that off. Then I'm going to put a single crochet in the next stitch. And now I'm going to do single crochet 2 together again. Hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop. Hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop. 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and mark it with a stitch marker on top. So this is going to be our second turn or twist in the Celtic knot. Now I'm going to single crochet in the next 13 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, so far your cord will look like this. It'll have one curve going this way with 2 stitch markers on the bottom edge, and then one curve going the opposite direction with 2 stitch markers on the top edge. Now we're going to remove this counting stitch marker, and we're going to do the 2 single crochets again. So I'm going to put a single crochet in the next stitch and back in that same stitch, and then I'm going to mark the bottom with a stitch marker. Then I'm going to put a single crochet in the next stitch. Then I'm going to put 2 in again. 1, 2, and I'm going to mark the bottom with another stitch marker. Then I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch. And then I'm going to put 2 single crochets in the one after that. So I'm going to have 3 increases right here. This is for our 3rd loop in the knot. And it'll make your knot really curve around your cord here. And next I'm going to single crochet in the next 11 again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm about halfway finished with my cord, and so far you'll have a lot of bends in it. Okay, and that's to help it look its best when we're ready to weave the knot. Now we're going to do those single crochet 2 togethers again. So I put my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and then I'm going to mark the top with a stitch marker. Then I single crochet in the next stitch, and then I do the single crochet 2 together again. Hook in to that back loop, yarn over, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and mark the top. Now, again, we can get rid of this counting stitch marker, and I'm going to single crochet in the next 13 chains. Ten, 11, 12, 13. Okay, and now I'm ready to do the 2 single crochet again. So 1, 2, and then I'm going to mark the bottom of the single crochets together. Then single crochet in the next one, and then 2 again in the next one. 1 and 2, and mark the bottom. Now I'm going to single crochet in the next 11. We have 10 and 11. So I'm almost finished. I have just a little bit more of my chain left. So now I'm going to do the single crochet 2 together, and I'm going to do it 3 times. So hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, hook into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and then mark the top. Then I'm going to single crochet in the next stitch, then hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and mark the top. And then one more time, single crochet in the next stitch, regular single crochet, then the single crochet 2 together, hook in, yarn over, pull up a loop, hook in to the next one, yarn over, pull up a loop, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 3, and mark the top. And then I'm going to single crochet in the last 10 chains right here. So I should have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and last one, 10. Okay, so let's take a look at what your cord will look like. I'm going to cut about 6 to 8 inches off here, and let's see how our cord looks after all of our single crochets and marking. So it's going to look a little wiggly here, but that's okay. So don't worry, it's not supposed to be straight. You're supposed to have a lot of curves. So we have loop 1, then we're going to have loop 2 here, then loop 3, 4, 5, 6. And the first 2 have only 2 stitch markers, and then the third one has 3. And then the next have just 2, and then the last one, the 6th one, has 3. Now we're going to add the edging to our cord. It really helps the knot design to pop, and we want to pick the beginning of the cord. So if you remember, the one with 2 yarn tails is at the end of our cord. So the beginning of our cord doesn't have any yarn tails. And I put a contrasting color as a slip knot on my hook. And now I want to work in the back loop only of each stitch across. So normally we go in under both loops like this, but I'm going to work putting my hook down through the center and catching just that back loop. And we're going to work a slip stitch. So slip stitch is hook in, yarn over, pull through the stitch, and through the loop on your hook. That is it. Hook in, yarn over, pull through. Hook in, yarn over, pull through. And now you'll see why we added all those stitch markers. So I'm going to work my way across nice, loose slip stitches, trying to make them even, but I don't want them too tight because this is really just for show. It's to help make that Celtic knot design really shine so you can see the over and unders really well. And it's adding just a nice frame for our cord. So you're going to keep going, and whenever you get to one of your stitch markers, you're going to skip that stitch. That's it. That's why we put those in there, because it's going to help accentuate the twists and turns and make our knot look even better. So here I've come up on my first stitch marker. I'm going to take it out and skip that stitch that it was in and just work the slip stitch in the next stitch. Here's my next one. Take it out. That's where it was. I'm going to skip it and work in the next stitch. And that's all there is to it. So instead of having to try to find these stitches or count, when you get to this stage of the cord, all you have to do is slip stitch along and skip whenever you get to those stitch markers. And I'll show you what it looks like to go along the other side. We're going to go all the way down this top side of the cord, but then we're going to come back along the other side. And I'll show you how to do that in a second. Here you can see I've gone along the top side of the cord with my nice even slip stitch edging. I love how these two colors look together. Alright, so let's see here. Here I am at the end of the cord, and I don't want to have to fasten off and join again. That's too much work. So when I get to the end of the cord, you're going to chain one, and then you're going to insert your hook right into the side of that last single crochet and do another slip stitch. Then chain one again, and now I'm ready to go along this side of the cord. And again, instead of going under both loops, I'm going to go down through the center of the stitches and pick up that back loop only. And I'll continue with my even slip stitches. Like so, and when I get to those stitch markers, I just skip the stitch, and it helps to accentuate the bend in the cord. And you'll see when we get to the weaving step how it helps everything to just lay and lock into place. So when you get to the end of this side, fasten off, and we'll be ready to weave our Celtic knot. Here's what the cord will look like when you're finished, and I'll review it one more time. We have loop 1, loop 2, loop 3, loop 4, loop 5, loop 6. So you can see there are 2 loops that are really like hairpin turns here, and then we have just 2 opposite bends, an out, an in, and an out. So we're ready to weave this knot. And of course we're making 2 of these cords. What you're going to need is a piece of cork board, and you don't have to have a big one for this project. This is like 4 or 5 by 5. And then you'll want to print out the Celtic knot diagram. This is available for free on my blog at CelticKnotCrochet.com. The link is in the description below. And make sure you print out the correct one. So this one is for right-handers, and then I made one that is flipped for left-handers. Because of all of our twists and turns, left-handers will just have it be opposite, so it would help you to have an opposite diagram. But you're going to do the same steps here, and this video will actually be made for right-handers and left-handers. So if you're watching the left-hander video right now, just follow along, because everything will be done in the direction that you need it. So you're also going to need some straight sewing pins. I bought this cute little hedgehog pin cushion. I'll put the link to it in the description below, and it has all these great butterfly pins. It's just cute, and straight sewing pins work great for this part of the project. So you're just going to pin the diagram to the cork board, and then you're going to actually, before we even begin weaving, it's always a good idea to take your finger, place it on the asterisk, and follow the arrow and follow the green path first, and then the green path turns into the white path. And this just helps your brain get used to where you're going to go with the cord. And I put it in 2 different colors just so it was easier for you to see all the twists and turns. So we're going to start with the beginning of the cord, which is the one with the short end. See how this has the long piece? We want the one with the short piece. And I'm going to line that up with that black asterisk and pin it in place. And I like to leave the yarn tails on there, and I'm just going to follow that arrow and the green path. So Here's my loop 1, loop 2. Now I'm heading to loop 3. And I'll pin that on top. And then I want to peek at the diagram, and I can see that I'm going to be going over right here, and then under, and then back over where I began. So pass over like so. See how I'm going over, but then I need to go under this one. Like so. And here's that little end that we're going to cover up by passing over it with the cord. And then I get to loop 4. Pin it in place. Now I'm going to head this way because I want to head to loop 5. So I peek again. Right here I'm going to go under, but this part isn't here yet, so I don't have to worry about that. And then right here I'm going to go over and then under. So I just fit the end through there like that so I can pass over and under. And I'm making sure that this right side is facing up. Like so. And now I'm heading from 5 to 6, my last loop. So I want to peek at the diagram, and I'm going to go over right here, and then I'm going to go under right here. So I think I'll pin everything there at the 5 mark, and take the end and go over and under. I'm almost finished already. And you can pin wherever you want. The pins kind of act like a third hand to help hold everything in place for you. All right, let's peek at the diagram. I'm going to go down and around, and I'm going to go under. And then when I get to here, I'm going to go over. So I'm going to go over this one, and then I'm going to go back under and meet up where I started. If you look here, you can see there's our asterisk where we started. And by hiding the ends, right like that, we won't be able to see where this knot begins and where it ends. So I'm going to do a little trick like this. I'm going to turn it this way and go like that. You see how I just slid that under there? And I need to go over the next one, but I need to go down inside here. So one thing you can do to make it easier if your hands are having a hard time fitting down in there is you can just go thread your yarn tails onto your yarn needle and then go down into the nook that you need to get your end of your cord into. And there you go. And you want to adjust it. Uh-oh, came out there. I like to pin the beginning and the end. So it doesn't come undone. And that's it. So what I'm going to do is pin across right here where I started and where I ended, so I don't lose the ends of those cords, and I'll remove all the other pins. Like that. And then on the back here, move this out of the way. I can remove the pins now that it's flipped over. And I see my two ends here. Do you see that? I've got both ends here. And I can tie them together or sew them together. I think I'm just going to tie them together because we're going to put two motifs on top of each other, so you won't even see this. So I just take the yarn tail of one side and the yarn tail of the other and do a nice double knot. And then do that with the other side. See the other yarn tails on the other side of the knot, the edge. And then what's really easy is you just cut about a 1/2 inch, because we put it in a double knot. These are not going to show because we're going to put this is going to be stiffened. We're going to put stiffener on the back here, and we're going to put another motif on top. So you won't see these ends, and we don't have to bother with weaving them in. Of course, if you would rather do it that way. And then another thing I like to do to help secure this knot is to take your glue gun and just put a little dot of glue in 4 different places here on the knot. So I would glue here, here, so the top and bottom twists, I want to glue those in place, and then the sides kind of look like a heart, and I want to glue right there, and I guess right in the center. And that'll help keep everything from shifting. Of course, before you glue, you want to make sure everything looks nice and even, and that things look straight. Just put a little bit there. You don't need a lot of glue. It's just enough to tack it in place so your knot holds its shape. And there you go. So weave the other cord, and I'll show you how to put it all together. To stiffen, I like to use the same piece of corkboard and a piece of aluminum foil. And then I take my motif and I flip it over so the right side is facing down. And I'm going to shake up and apply this fabric stiffener. Now, one note is that if you see here, along the edge we have a bunch of different colored loops. So we have our slip stitch edging, and then right behind that we have this row or edge of the main cord color, these loops, and then we have the color of the slip stitch. So when I apply the stiffener, I want to try not to get it on this edge here. So I'm going to try to do it inside the light green and in between all the light green, mainly for our outside edges. For the inside here, it doesn't really matter, but we're going to be using these loops right here, the darker green, to sew the two motifs together. And if they're stiffened, it just makes it harder to put your needle through, because we're going to be working right through those like that. So try not to put stiffener there. And I just dab. I love this bottle because it's got, helps to open it. I love this bottle because it has the nice opening where I can adjust how much I want to open it. And I just dab it on like that, and then I take my finger and press it in. And today is a very hot day where I live, so I'm going to go put this out in the sunshine and it'll make this dry in a matter of minutes, really. And then I think I'll do that again. I'll do another, once it's dry, I'll put another application of this on, and that'll make it really nice and stiff, so when it hangs from my bag, it doesn't get all crumpled up. Here are my knot motifs, and I've stiffened them. I've applied it twice. Let them dry in the sun. You could see they hold up nicely. And we're going to be putting them together like this. And before we join them, we're going to make a hanger and add a bead element. Of course, the bead element is optional. And then we're going to sew these motifs together around the outside edge. To make the hanger, I'm going to use the same dark green that I used for the center of the cord, and I'm going to chain 40. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to fold this in half after we add some stitches, and this is about the length of it, about 4 inches. That will hang down from your bag, but it's going to be wrapped around the handle of your bag. So you might want to do 50 chains or even 60 if you're wrapping it around something thick. And we're going to work in that back bar of the chain again. I'm going to skip the first chain and I'm going to work a slip stitch in each chain across. And this gives you a nice skinny cord, but gives it a little bit more strength than just a plain chain. And by going in the back bar, we have this nice looking cord on all sides. So continue that all the way down to the end. And this is what my hanger will look like. Cut about 5 inches from the end, yarn over, pull through, nice tight knot. And I'm going to set that aside. And now we're going to make the bead element. So I decided to pick this large sparkly orange bead. I thought it would look nice. And I'm going to need, because this bead has a top-down center hole. So if you're going to pick a bead that has a top-down center hole like this, you're going to need another smaller bead as a stopper bead. If your bead is like this, where it has a top hole that just goes across, you can just thread this through and attach it. Now, I wouldn't recommend this bead because the hole goes this way, so it would hang like this, and I want it to hang like this. So you do have to make sure you notice what kind of hole your bead has and if it works for your project. And I'm going to use a sewing needle, and I'm going to use 2 lengths of matching sewing thread because I want to have a nice double thickness so my bead doesn't come off. So you want to thread one end of both of your lengths onto the needle, and then I'm going to go down through the center of the needle I'm going to go down through the center of the bead with the needle, and then I'm going to go through my stopper bead, and it'll be like so. I'll put a little closer so you can see. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up through the bead opposite the direction I first came down. And I can tighten the thread up, and I can rotate the bead so it looks its best. And you can see how the thread is in there like that, and then pull it nice and tight, and now the bead will hang nicely. And then another good thing to do is to tie a double knot with your thread to tighten everything up. That'll keep the beads in place. So now we're ready to add. I'm going to pick one of the motifs, and I'm going to first add the hanger, and you can sew it on if you like, but I'm going to glue it on with my hot glue gun. So just add some glue right here in the middle of the cord so I still can access those outer loops like we talked about. Glue that like that. And I'm placing this on with the right side facing, but it really doesn't matter. You're going to be flipping it around. And you can take these two yarn tails if you'd like and tie them in a double knot just so they're nice and secure. And I like to just secure the ends there. And then for my bead element, I like to do a combination of sewing it on and adding a knot. So I'm going to put all the threads through that sewing needle again. And I want to make sure I'm going to go right up the center here. So I'll find the center and go right through that bottom stitch. And then I'm just going to find a spot on the back where I can sew around a couple times and go back through. See that loop I made? I'm going to go back through it, and that'll create a nice knot. Cut off the excess, and then put a little dab of glue right there to help secure that. So one side is ready, and now I'm going to place this side on top. Now, in case you don't want to put two together like this and have it be double-sided, you can just mount this onto a piece of felt. So I've added the hanger like before, and then I cut a piece of felt that's slightly larger than my project, and I put some glue right in the center and press it down. And then I work my way around, adding glue to the center of the cords along each section. Like so. And go along here. And let that cool. Press it down, let the glue cool, and once I think it's pretty well cooled, I'm going to come around with my sharp scissors and trim the felt so it's just behind that edging. I just check that everything's all sealed up. So like there's a little gap here. Just add a little bit more glue in there. Press it down. And I can trim things if I don't like how it looks on the back. Just give it a little rounded corner. And there you go. So that's one way to make this bag charm. But let's get back to our double-sided version. So in order to put this together, I'm going to sew it together, but what really helps is to first glue them together. So I make sure that the top and bottom and sides are lined up, and I'll put a dot of glue here right in the center. That helps keep them in place. And then I'll just do that for all the sections here, the top and the sides. Just add a little bit of glue, don't need a lot, because I'm mainly using this to hold it together, so when I sew it together it'll be nice and even. If you don't have a hot glue gun, I highly recommend buying one. It's a great tool for all kinds of projects. Alright, so that's held together nicely. And now I'm going to take my yarn needle and a long length of the same color as the center of my cord. I mean, I guess you could do the light green if you'd like, but we are going to use the dark green loops. So by using this dark green yarn, they're really going to disappear. So to begin, just insert your hook into those. Insert your hook into a dark green loop on either motif. So if you see, here's our slip stitch edging with the light green, and it'll be the loops right behind the slip stitch edging. And I'm trying to pick two loops that line up, that correspond to each other. And I'll pull this all the way through until I have a short length. And then I'm going to tie it in a double knot. And then I can just tuck this this yarn tail. I can weave it in now to show you. I can just tuck that inside, in between the layers, like that. And I can trim it off over here so it doesn't show through the front. Okay, so back to picking a dark green loop right behind the slip stitch here, and then a dark green loop over on the other side. And I'm just doing a whip stitch. I'm going to keep starting on this lower side here and cross over and go through a loop here. And I'll work around the hanger and through the hanger. Go right through the middle of the hanger here. And this is a very lightweight project, so it's not like this is going to come apart on you, or you know, it's a pocket that you're opening and closing all the time. Once it's together, it's together. I got some stiffener in there, so that's what made that a little bit more difficult. I'll go back through the hanger. But you can kind of see how by using the green, the darker green, this seaming just kind of disappears. And you don't really even see how we joined it together. So I'm just going to continue all the way around the shape. And you can see there, see? And it joins them together. So you have a nice double-sided project. I've gone around the entire Celtic knot, joining both pieces. You can see that's what it looks like along the edge, kind of disappears. And here I am about to end. So I'll just make another loop with the yarn and then put my needle back through the loop to create a nice knot, and then I just kind of go through the center of it, and then I can go back down through the center again, come out over here like so, and clip off the excess. And there you go. That's how you make the Celtic crochet bag charm. And now that your bag charm is complete, you'll just take the hanging loop and wrap it around the handle on your bag, and then squeeze the charm through that loop. And now your charm is secure on your bag. So I hope you enjoyed making this project. I hope you found that this tutorial was very helpful to you, and make sure to give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to click to subscribe and send this video along to anybody who would like it. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.